Hey guys, welcome back to It's the Good Life podcast. I am Josh. This is Anthony. We're doing a little bit of a bonus episode mini-series themed on Valentine's. But before we get into that, I got an opening question for you, Anthony.
Oh no.
What would be your first, your ideal first date?
Oh man. Gosh.
Like if you could just start fresh with somebody and it was like...
It's a lot of pressure. You know, I haven't had one of those in a while. So, but no, in all honesty, I think a good first date would have to be...
Bouldering?
I don't know if it necessarily, I was gonna say it doesn't necessarily matter what you're doing, but rather like the ability to get to know someone deeper, like on that date. Like I wouldn't want us to go to the movies and just sit there and watch like Iron Man, fight Hulk for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Right? But I think it would be like an activity or something simple. Like going to the beach, I don't know. I really enjoy board games. Like that's something that I really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So if they're a big board game person, they have these really cool board game stores. I don't know if you know about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like where your cousin Tyler goes to. Yeah. So if I was, for instance, I met someone in the little town of San Francisco, we have a store out there called the Game Parlor. And it's basically this store where you pay like a small fee, you buy something, and there's these like bajillion shelves of games.
Oh, I've
and
heard
you can
about
just
those.
Pick it off the shelf and play and learn. Like there's no limit to the time. Like it's a really cool time. You get coffee. Like you just like that's
sounds like your kind of vibe.
And it's I would love to do something like that soon. But that would probably be my ideal. I don't know, somewhat of an ideal first date. Just getting to know them on like a deeper level.
Yeah, it sounds like the priority is less so like the medium, but like the goal.
No, I don't care what we're doing.
Yeah,
like, it's
I know.
Just as long as like we get to know each other.
You're like skydiving, and you're like, so how's your
backflip in the air. Yeah, so I think you could meet people in all kinds of ways. Like get to know them. Yeah. What about you?
Oh man. I mean, I went on a first.
What was your first date? Actually?
I went on a first date only a couple months ago.
Okay.
And obviously it's continued into a relationship, which is awesome. But it was honestly, I love food. So like anything food.
I know you do.
But I would say like any conversation, good conversation over good food is an ideal first date for me.
Okay, but then what do you do after you eat?
So interestingly, on that first day, we went and ate at a place, and then we got ice cream at not Handles. No, not Handles. I'm tripping. Afters. Afters ice cream. There's an Afters ice cream that I think we've gone to. That's in a gas station. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I know the one in Citrus Crossing.
Oh no, it's not that one.
There's another one though. I know.
There's the one in Pasadena.
Yes.
And that one.
You guys
got
like
like a bunch.
Afters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's also funny because I think the joke of it is that we're both lactose intolerant.
Very funny.
That we learned over dinner.
Funny.
It's like let's go get ice cream to like.
You guys talked about lactose intolerance over dinner?
Yeah, we did. Shows how the conversation was.
She found out the hard way.
Oh no! No! No, I think we both avoided cheese for the first meal, but talked about it.
First impressions are important.
Yeah, especially being lactose intolerant.
Yeah, first dates. You don't want to mess up there.
But interestingly, to your point, we talked about before on our first date how we both loved like card games.
Yes.
And so little did I know that she actually secretly brought a card deck so that we could play like card games at some point.
How thoughtful.
Like if the time, if the right time came.
Yeah.
And so we were eating ice cream.
She just had it in her pocket or something?
No, she pulled out her purse and she put it on the table and she's
okay.
like, I was like, oh, are we playing a card game now? And she's like, if you want. And she kind of like pestered my competitive side.
Okay.
But I think eating over good food and similarly like having good conversation really makes a difference.
Nice. I feel like you stole my answer and then added more.
Yeah, I was like, actually, you set me up for that.
You're welcome.
But one thing that I think was on my mind when it came to talking about like Valentines and like we already had a huge series about dating and relationships.
Check out season 1 for that.
But one thing that we didn't really get to talk about a lot that I felt like is really important for me is attachment styles. We did talk about a little bit about boundaries, which I think is also related to this topic that we might get to in our second bonus Valentine's episode. But attachment styles, I was doing a little bit of research on it. It's the brain's strategy for staying safe in relationship, or trying to, you know. But they are not necessarily a personality trait. Like you can develop and change your attachment style for the better or for the worse. And so one thing that I kind of wanted to start off by saying, or at least just to kind of put a framework on it, is that attachment styles do not equal weakness. So like just because you might be like an insecure attachment, anxious attachment, that doesn't necessarily mean that like you're a weak person or that you don't have the ability to develop from that. I think that's sometimes what people will do for themselves is like they'll say, I'm this attachment style, like whether they know it or not, that's all I am, that's who I am. When the actuality is you can develop from there. And then also another thing is how like your influences, like social media and the relationships that you have with your parents can affect what your attachment style is in relationship. So it's not to say that you yourself, again, it's not just entirely your personality, but it is also as an outcome of your external influences.
Got it.
Okay. And so I wanted to kind of get into at least the first attachment style, which is secure attachment, which is basically, I have like a phrase for each one of these, so it simplifies it.
Yeah.
So if you are someone who has secure attachment, you're saying to yourself, connection is safe, and I'm worthy of love.
Yeah, so that's securement, you said.
That's secure attachment. So it's like you can depend on other people, you can express your needs, but if there's conflict, that doesn't necessarily mean you're abandoning me.
Okay.
Like there's security in myself, but there's also security in the relationship that we have, despite differences, despite challenges.
So is that one of the healthier ones?
This is the healthiest one.
Oh, healthiest one.
This is the healthiest one. I should have prefaced with that.
Yeah, because I was trying to understand, does that mean that you find security in other people and you can't necessarily feel secure when you're by yourself?
No. That's a different attachment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I feel like if we were to put a label on it, as far as I'm aware, I feel like our friendship is secure attachment. Like if we were to have conflict, which we've had, like it's
plenty of times.
Plenty of times.
Yeah, the amount of times are uncountable on my two hands. No,
like the amount of times I wanted to punch this guy in the jaw. I'm just kidding. But like if we have conflict or there's some issue, it's like it doesn't put our relationship in jeopardy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, have there been experiences like you've had where you've experienced this sort of relationship dynamic, like secure attachment, or seen it?
I would say so. I think from a healthy standpoint, realizing that like the friendships that you're currently in and assessing that is a big part of kind of how I navigate currently my relationships in life. But I would say the goal for most of my relationships is to be a secure attachment style. Like is for it to be so that like everyone knows, like those friends that you don't necessarily have to, well, I don't know about everyone, but those friends that you don't necessarily have to keep in touch with all the time, but you still maintain this really tight, strong connection. It's like when you guys meet up months later, it's like you guys never left. Like, you just catch it right where you left off, right?
It's like you just play, you press pause and then play.
You press pause and then you like catch up, and there's this like season of like, okay, like I'm all caught up now, like we're good to go our own ways. Like, you know, no harm, no foul. I really think, which is really interesting because at this point in my life and at your point in life, I feel like I can only speak for myself, but like traveling a lot, of exploring different avenues of life and going after the things that I've like said I wanted to do for a long time. And for yourself, like nursing school and master's programs and all that, right? Not putting all your cards on the table. Josh is a very busy man.
I don't try to be.
But like that being said, there is this kind of feeling of like we don't necessarily have as much time as we'd like to really catch up all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously there's the sad part about that, but then at the same time, it's like I don't feel like I miss out on the entirety of your life, even though I'm not there at every second.
Yeah.
Right? And that's probably another attachment style of like of being too clingy or being, you know, such that. But
Well,
I
you're
think
kind of
there's,
hinting.
I'm sure it all comes together.
Yeah.
But like that idea of really just like being able to just start where we left off, I think has been something that I really valued in relationships, and also takes the stress off of feeling like, oh, I have to be doing this. I have to text him at least twice a week in order to maintain that relationship. Right?
Yeah.
So,
it's kind of like an assumed maintenance. It feels like based on what you're saying.
That's
right?
interesting.
Like it's kind of like if the relationship was a car. It's like knowing that there's always going to be oil in the car.
Yeah.
You know, like even if I haven't turned the car on in like 3 weeks, like it's still gonna run the moment I get back in the car I need to go.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's like secure attachment. Like there's a confidence that it's gonna run. Like whether or not you're driving it all the time. You know?
But I mean, that's also to say like not all cars run the same. Right?
That's also very true.
So there's an aspect. I'm curious to ask you also, like in terms of how do you navigate your personal relationships in order to get closer to secure attachment styles, and what is it that you do when you do encounter relationships that aren't that kind of style of relationships and they're all like clinging on you? Like, is there a certain way you navigate that?
You're posing a really good question I love this. This is already so good. Is
kind of a two-part.
It's this question of like your attachment style is it's a two-way street, right?
Yes.
So like I could be secure attachment, like that's how I am with my friends, but then you could have a different attachment style that then makes you receptive differently, right? So it's kind of like you said. I would say for me, like that, kind of like you said, my goal is always to be in like a secure, like in a relationship or friendship with somebody where there's secure attachment, like in the sense of I'm secure in myself and you're secure with yourself enough that we don't have to try to make this anything A, more than it actually is, and B, like I don't know how to phrase it in a way that like we don't have to maintain it artificially. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we don't have to I have to text you 3 times a week. I have to call, like if we call, then great. If we don't, then we don't. You know, which I feel like is exactly what ours is. Yeah,
it's kind of interesting. So I've been in this process of kind of decluttering my life recently, going into more of a season where I'm very open to kind of a new job opportunities that might come up. And so I have to be ready essentially to go at any time. I'm preparing for that. And so in light of that, I'm having to sell a lot of things, downgrade, downsize. And something I did yesterday night was actually sell one of the plants I had.
No way. Anxious attachment. You're like, no.
So there's a point with this is like I had that plant since like the beginning. It was one of the first plants that I bought. It was this large form Monstera deliciosa, if you've had one.
Or if you're
elegant. Into plants. Yeah, it's the Swiss cheese plant essentially. But like the really big leaves with like holes.
Oh, what? You sold that one?
The iconic. Well, there was no way I was moving that with me. I knew at some point I had to let it go. It was just a matter.
I'm sad.
It was just a matter when. Well, but then the thing is, like, I didn't realize it until the lady was out the door with it, and I had whatever it was, like $85 in my hand, which was pretty good return on investment, right, for a plant that I bought for like maybe $20 or something. And I grew it. I started it with 2 leaves, and by the end of it, I gave it away with 8 leaves, like 7 or 8 leaves, right?
Yeah.
But I think the idea of like learning to care for something, to pour your time and love into something, and then to let it go ultimately as a form of like just releasing it into the world and like giving it its own ability to breathe. Yeah. You know, and now it's like she took a picture of it at home and she's like, it's in this spot with like a lot of light and it's getting like everything it needs. And I was like, yeah, just like take care of it for me. But I think all that to say, like being able to, where was I trying to get with this? But the idea of like taking care of something and then letting it go, I think kind of relates a lot to the attachment style that we have to certain things. It's like understanding that like that plant that towards the end of its end of my time with it, I didn't have to put as much maintenance into it as I did in the beginning of caring for it when it was like this little baby plant. Right. And like as it got more mature, it was essentially able to like take care of itself in very much similar way as to how we're able to take care of ourselves as adults. And so I think that's interesting too, to see how like there's a lot of symmetry in that way. Of like, you know, the deeper our relationship is with Josh, with you and I, like the less maintenance, if you will, that I have to put into it.
That's interesting. No, that's true. I mean, it's interesting to even apply like attachment styles to objects, right? Where it's like, I think that's the very concept of hoarding, right? Like it is purely based on your attachment to these items that is irrational, you know? And then I think the same thing applies to relationships, right? Like we talked about this in a couple episodes back in the dating series about like, you were talking about what if you need to admit that you're not with the right person?
Oh, snap.
And the attachment style that you have with them sometimes can withhold you from saying, actually, this is the wrong relationship because there's an insecurity based on that attachment style, you know? But going back to your point, I think that the way that you can let go of something does speak volumes on how you're attached to it, right?
Yeah, and I'm not going to say it was easy. Like, it was extremely hard. Like, part of me felt, you know, I'm not going to say, like, it was or wasn't, but part of me almost felt like, you know, it felt almost like a heartbreak. Like, I'm letting go of something that was once so deeply mine in a material sense. And it was like the generosity of letting something go and letting someone else enjoy that part of me. And so in other ways, it's weird that, like, I wonder if this is what it's like to leave a legacy behind, is like leaving a part of yourself behind that continues to grow on. Like that's literally what that plant is for me, like in someone's house. Like that's a part of me now. It's an extension of me in some ways. Because my like love and care poured out onto that plant, but now like it's in the hands of someone else that can take care of it, maybe better than I can. And it's just trusting them to do that, you know?
Dude, that's like legacy in a nutshell. Dang, I got really deep.
Legacy in a nutshell.
But no, it's interesting, especially about like the plant. And if you want to go into like legacy too, like I think there's also something to be said about releasing something with the security in yourself that you don't have control. You know what I mean? So like with that plant, right? Say that person doesn't take care of that plant. You have to have the security in yourself to be like, that's not my decision for that, whether or not they take care of it, but I'm leaving them in the best hands that I think, you know, I did the best I could. It's kind of like the phrase that people could describe. Right?
Well, that's interesting that you bring up also the idea of like how control plays into it. Because I think that in a big aspect of attachment styles is related to control one way or another. Like I want to control the way you use your phone. Like, can I see your phone? Like, let me go through your contacts. Let me go through your DMs. Like, let me see. Like, there's this, or like, don't, you know, I want to, and I've heard relationships that operate this way, which is really interesting, is like, oh, I'm not okay with you hanging out with so-and-so. Like, or like, oh, are there going to be XYZ at the party? And no, you can't go, you know? I'm sure you can speak from experience in some of those lights. But I'm super curious for those that are listening too, like how do you handle those kind of situations? Is that just like a get out of their relationship kind of thing, like as soon as you can? Or is that like okay, like let's see if we can mitigate like that kind of fire and assess the situation, see what we can do about it? Is that a conversation you're open to having?
No, I am. I think it's definitely it's a lot deeper of a conversation than just attachment. And I think that this is a really good segue to talk about anxious attachment. It's like segue into that. So the phrase to describe anxious attachment is, I must stay close or I will lose love. And I think kind of to your point too, it's like, I must keep them close or else I will lose their love. Like it's kind of a two-way street in that sense. It's just kind of around this core belief that love is fragile, right? And abandonment is always possible, like all the time, you know?
Well, so why do you think that is so prevalent in our world today?
Dude. Well,
like,
I think it's
don't you see it a lot around you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Unless it's just me.
It's definitely two parts.
Okay.
I think it's an internal and external issue, right? The internal issue is I'm not enough without X, Y, and Z. Right? So like going back to like hoarding, right? The anxious attachment is if I don't have my stuff, I'm nothing. Like I'm defined by my stuff.
Yeah.
Or in a relationship sense, it's I'm only defined by who I am based on the person I'm with. Right? And so from our experience of being with somebody who is anxious in an anxious attachment style, and you knowing that person too, and being friends with them as well, right? Like that was a lot of how she operated. I mean, is if I'm not with XYZ person, I'm not enough. You know, so that's the internal truth. But I think the external truth is we're constantly fed with, we're constantly overstimulated with things that are reminding us of why we're not enough. Right?
Well said.
Right? So it's like, we don't have the car, we don't have the job, we don't have the money, we don't have whatever, right? Yeah. And that reminds us, dang, we're not enough, right? Wow. So it develops that anxiety of, man, I got to get more so I'm enough, right? And it sort of creates this superficial, fragile perspective of what real depth and value looks like. False value, in a sense.
Wow. No, you're just getting things moving here.
Yeah.
I love what you said regarding the difference between internal and external, kind of the two variances of that. Yeah. Because I think it's so true that, like the way you painted it out was that our external, like we do assign attachment to certain things. Oh, you have the new iPhone 17, like you are worth more. Yeah. You know? or like, you know, like, oh, you have the new, I don't know, like
whatever,
you know, whatever it is, like the M4 chip in your Apple, whatever.
Yeah, MacBook. You got the new Mac. Wow.
Yeah, like it's the pursuing of more, of like what's better, of the new car, of this. And that's probably something that I'm guilty of recently is like, regardless of whether I needed it or not, it's like just like tying our value to the materialistic things that we own. And I think it's not hard to make the connection that can be detrimental to our understanding of relationships, to our understanding of the world, because then we start assigning value to how much someone owns, to what someone wears, to what someone looks like, when the value really comes from within, right? Biblically, like Jesus was like, you know, I don't look at the outward appearance, right? But from out of a good heart, like that's what I care about. And that's so often not shown from the cover of a book. That's so often not shown from the flannel that one wears, but that's shown from the inside of like the actions that one speaks out of. And so I love that. That's so, I think, deep and profound in so many ways. And I wish that if society had really understood that, then I think that a lot of the issues that we see today with materialism, with consumerism, with things of just trying to one up each other, of trying to go after what's best, wouldn't necessarily be as much of a problem. Yeah.
That's the core problem.
I think it's a foundational part of it.
It's a core foundational part of why people do that. You know, but it ultimately comes from, and this is what you were kind of highlighting before, is this need to be loved and need to be known, and the desire to be valued. But the problem, I think, with those perspectives, kind of like what you were highlighting, and this is something that I think that it took me a long time to recognize, But once I realized it definitely changed my outlook on every type of relationship I had with anything and every person, is that person, that item will never fulfill you how God will. It will never meet that expectation that you want it to do, right? So like that relationship, that person is fallible. So if you place all of your expectation on being fulfilled, secure on that person, they will fail you no matter what. It's just a reality. Not to say that they won't, not to say that they will like fail you completely, but they will never meet the expectation that your flesh would want them to achieve. Even an item too, like you get, like we talked about this in the Christmas episode, right? Like what is Christmas really about? Like you get that item, is it about the present? No, it's not about the present. It's about the person who's giving it to you, right? That phone, that whatever, that car, that whatever, it will never be the true fulfillment. Because if it was, we would need very little, we would need a lot less than what we actually have.
Yeah, I think that's also why, yeah, absolutely. I think that's also why like value can be subjective. Like there's that, there's that saying like beauty is in the eye of the beholder, because the value of something is much more often, it extends beyond like the monetary value, but it could be the sentimental value of who gave that to you, right? Like if your grandma gave you a penny, right? And that was the last penny she ever gave you in her life before she took off and, met with, went back home, right? Like that penny holds a certain significance to you than any other penny in the world.
Yeah.
But that penny to anyone else is just a cent.
Right.
But the penny, like something that my dad told me to do when I was younger was we would, in our culture, we give red envelopes, right?
Oh yeah.
And like any type of like big function, New Year's and stuff like that. And during these moments, these seasons, getting like a red envelope was big. But then he was like if I were you, like I would save the red envelopes that you get from grandma, because you just don't know, like that might just be the thing that you have left of her one day. And I think that was really interesting to me, because as someone who like doesn't really hold on to a lot, for me to hold on to anything means a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Ooh, that's kind of a word.
And so so I was really taken back by that, and realizing that like everything that I hold on to, including that plant for a while, has some sort of significance or value to my life. And that includes all the things that I own, like my plants, my shoes, my clothes. But I think that process of, and there's a question in here that I really do also want to ask you, but it's that process of like, how can I transition from putting value into materialistic things into like an internal thing, like of valuing other people? And so I think that brings up a really important question that I also want to slide across to your side of the table, is that how do you go from, because I'm sure you're also a victim of that too, is like finding value in materialistic things, but then bridging that over to realize, like, how do you help yourself realize that, like, at the end of the day, that's not what's most important, and value is really in, like, the people, the internal things that really matter.
Yeah.
Like, how do you find value in yourself, essentially?
No,
like,
absolutely.
If I took off everything you owned away from you today, like, you're just bare bone naked Josh, like, would you still feel the value you still do now?
Yeah.
Right?
I would even pose a counter question, kind of rhetorically to like answer, is that what we should actually really be pursuing? Is sort of a framework stripped down glass of life, where it's like just the bare necessities, the essentials, right? In terms of the experience. I think that for me, a lot of it is how I spend my time, right? I know we've talked about, again, these are things we've talked about in previous episodes, but our culture wants us to rush and move and don't wait and don't spend time and don't like just keep going and progressing and get the better job and get the, like, it just keeps wanting you to move super fast, right? Get the next best iPhone, like we've talked about this, right? But I've realized one of the most valuable commodities that's taught me to value what's most important is time, right? And we've talked about this just outside of the podcast and just in our own lives. Like the other day, I was inside I'm preparing for my boards exam for nursing, and I was inside working on this prep for probably like 4 or 5 hours at that point, which is a long time,
Yeah, it's quite a bit of time.
And I was just feeling really preoccupied mentally, just anxious probably, like, oh man, if I don't pass this exam, what am I going to do? Like there was that sort of putting value into this thing that in the grand scheme of things doesn't really matter. But in that moment, because I was so consumed with this being important, I was just caught. And then I was anxious, I went outside and I sat on like my front porch, and there was just this beautiful like array of wispy clouds in the sky that were just getting hit perfectly by like the sun going down. And it just sort of caught me in a moment where I was like, this is what matters. This is what matters more than anything that I was doing before.
Yeah.
Not to say that isn't important, but man, like I'm doing that to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you paid no money to see that.
I paid no money to see that.
You just looked up.
I just looked up, and I feel like that's something that I feel like it's the simple things that we don't give enough attention to, that ultimately is what really matters, and so spending like an extra 10 minutes to get to work just so you can watch the sunrise, or spending an extra 10 minutes waking up so that you can do worship or something like that, do the thing, like give yourself more time on the things that actually matter and give yourself less time for the things that don't matter as much.
Yeah, that's actually really practical advice.
It's super practical.
In terms of, I love that a lot.
But the difficulty with that I've had to experience is you have to differentiate between what's important and what's not, right? But the world will tell you what it wants you to think is important. You should spend more time on your phone. You should invest more time in your social media profile. You should spend more time in your career. But what Scripture tells us and what really matters is the relationships. Invest time in your relationships. Invest time in your own body. Like going to the gym. I could rush and do like superset everything, just to get out of the gym for the sake of getting out of the gym. But there's something so fulfilling about working on this body that I've been given,
That's really interesting, because I think some people, regarding working out, some people approach it with this idea that like, this is gonna suck, like let me just get it out of the way as soon as I can. Like eat the frog, right?
Yeah.
Like early in the morning. But I really do think, and I push the idea for those who are listening to consider, like, what might it look like if you actually enjoyed it?
Yeah.
What would life look like if that thing that you're actually dreading, whether it's work, talking to people, if you have public social anxiety, posting on social media, if you're wanting to be more of a creator or build a personal brand, like what if that thing becomes something that you're actually excited about in life? Then all of a sudden, the thing that scares you away is the thing that you love to do. Like that's so opposite, I think, to how we often view certain things that are difficult, certain things like studying. Like I don't look forward to studying, but how can you make it into something fun? How can you make it into something where, like, let's go on a study date, like every time I get to study, I get to see you. Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
How do I make it so that I enjoy this experience? Maybe it's going out to a cafe to study. Yeah, I'm just thinking along your lines.
Yeah, for sure.
But whatever it is, you can apply that to going to the gym. Like, how can you find enjoyment in the toil, almost, if you will, in the work? And I think that's a really valuable piece of advice, I think, to like just try to seek value more so in those kind of things.
Yeah.
And be able to make that flip over. Yeah.
No, it's something that you and I talked about, and I'll kind of close with saying this is this is kind of like not like a life motto, but like sort of a phrase that I've been trying to pursue like for the next couple of months, is to be intent, not content. Right? where it's like, not that I can't be content, but it's being intentional in what I'm doing, right? Yeah, and that's a very you phrase, because you live being intent, not just being content. But I think that segues us good into avoidant attachment. And it's kind of interesting because I wanted to pose this to you, right? Because we talked about secure attachment, and I don't know, this came to mind, is like, I feel like attachment can be very much described like in an image of like how you're holding someone else's grip, right? So like, let's say like you're talking about secure attachment, you're like firmly grabbed, but you're not squeezing. Anxious attachment is like you are gripping onto the other person's hand. You're not letting go. Like you're trying to pull away, like I'm not letting you go. Avoidant attachment is like your hands are fully open. Like you're not holding on to anything. So the phrase is, I am safer relying on myself than others.
Wow.
Right?
It's almost like the opposite of attachment. It's interesting. But it's still an attachment style.
It's an attachment style because you don't want to be attached to anything. Right? So it's like, needs are dangerous. Closeness costs freedom. Right? Dependence equals weakness. Right? So for being somebody who is decluttering, right? Who is letting go, how do you find the balance of like being attached to these things, but also not being, so finding that balance of not being like too attached to them?
Yeah, so ever since I started living alone, I think it was a big, I think I'm recognizing now like how important it is that the things you have are, they're nice, but then also realizing that like it's very easy to fall into that trap of, I don't want anything to be attached to anything because I'm independent. I'm in my 20s. I don't want to be in a relationship. I don't want to be tied down by absolutely whatever. Like I'm in this process of literally selling everything so I don't have any strings attached. I'm living
That's interesting.
We're getting somewhere with this. I'm cutting all strings and literally burning the ships, right? So to speak, the analogy of burning the ships. So that there's no back door. Like I'm pursuing this thing with the idea that like I'm living month to month. Like there's no reason. I recently just froze my gym membership.
Are you for real?
Yeah, and I'll get into that later, but I might like transition to a different one.
Okay.
But all that to say, like all these things that were tying me down, including church, like I've been communicating, excuse me, that I may or may not take a step back pretty soon. And I'm not sure when. I told my landlord, like I might leave. I'll give you a month in advance. I told my supervisor, if you're watching this, no, I'm just kidding. I told my nursing supervisor that like any day now I could put in my 2 weeks. Like that's the kind of like gone with the wind mentality that I'm living right now. Like I'm speaking that from experience currently, sitting here at this time, this point in time. And so with all that context being said, going back to this attachment style of like pushing everything away, I think it's really challenging. I think it's really challenging to really ask myself, okay, then without all these things that I'm now detached from, what is it that really gives me value? What is it that I really care about enough to not let go of? Is it this, this certain camera? Is this certain bag that I have? Is it this certain, like those materialistic things all of a sudden, because I have less things now, those things matter more. Like the things that I do have hold more meaning than they did before because of just not having as much things. And I think realizing that is like something that, as I'm still thinking out loud about it, is still something that I am working on, is figuring out like what kind of things do really bring me value, and like how do I go about deciding that? And that might change. Like something I find value in right now might be something I have to let go, and God's calling me to say like, hey, like I know you've been really settled into this church and you love the people and you've been working with the youth group, but I'm calling you here, and that means you have to leave here. And so whatever that looks like for the relationships that you've built, like you're gonna have to walk away from that. And it's something that I think I've been silently, in some ways painfully, like tangibly trying to wrestle with God. Is like, part of me is trying to find a travel position outside, but at the same time, I think the reason that God's also not necessarily granted that to me in terms of prayer is that, like, he's given me the time and space to really consider like what it means to let go of some of these things. And it takes time. It's more than just like I wanted to do this end of the year 2025, but here I am in 2026, halfway through January, still not having a contract signed. And it's like, honestly, looking back, maybe I need this time to really slowly let go of things, because letting go takes time. It's not something that you can necessarily do overnight.
Yeah. I have so many thoughts.
Just breathe first.
I know.
Just don't forget
I'm
to
mentally
breathe.
breathing.
You're going red a little bit.
My brain is
you're going red for a bit.
Getting good respirations now.
Get some oxygen in there. In through your nose, out through your mouth.
I don't think. I guess what I was really trying to tackle in asking that, and I appreciate you answering in such depth, just based on your current experience. No, which I say that in a good way. Is that I think the avoidant attachment style is sort of this pursuing this idea that I am my best caretaker, and if I am that, why would I need anybody else or anything else, right? And so as a result, if you let's say I was trying to be with somebody or have a friendship with somebody who is avoidant attachment, they will never want to get depth with me. They'll never want to, because it's like, if I get depth, that puts me at that I don't really want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with the emotions, right? But what I hear that's different about the avoidant attachment style versus how you're approaching your relationship with your stuff is like, you're not necessarily saying, I don't need anybody, I don't need anything. You're saying, I do need things, but I don't need everything, right? Which is different, right? Because you're saying, there are some things like your relationship with your friends, right? Certain friends, which I can name on my, off the top of my head, like those are valuable to you. You want to keep those. You want to invest in those. Some plants that are really emotionally important to you, you want to keep those, right? But then there are some that you're like, I don't need to keep this, not because it's not important, but because I don't necessarily need to keep them, right? And I think that could be said about relationships too, right? It's like, there are people who are in relationships that I've known who are only in relationships to say that in a relationship, but they're actually not in any depth. I'm sure you've met those people too.
Yeah, I'm just laughing because
they date to date, right? But they're not actually,
like, to have for the title of like, I'm in a relationship.
I'm in a relationship, right? But not actually for the end goal of gaining depth, gaining like emotional and spiritual security with this person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, but I think the hardest part about that, and this ties into me selling my plant off, is you're saying like getting rid of and letting go of those things that have value in them, and just keeping those things that don't. But then, like, that plant was something that I found value in, but it was something that I just couldn't take with me because of the sheer size of it. Right. And I think there's a certain connection there too. Is like, in our life, like, are there certain moments where we're called to let go of something that we find a lot of value in, but we're not necessarily ready to let go of? And what does the process of that look like? Because that's very difficult, I think, to do, as I experienced last night when I was like, almost come into tears with letting go of this plant that I've spent and poured time and energy into, taking care of, seeing it grow up from, growing literally like 5 new leaves is like an enormous thing in the middle of my room.
Yeah, I remember.
And this is the interesting thing is too, like, once I gave that plant away, I came back into my room, and instead of that plant being there was empty space. And I think sometimes, and this connects to relationships too, is that there is this certain understanding that you need that letting go of things is going to cause empty space. And that's going to be uncomfortable at first.
Yeah.
But realizing and I can talk about my breakup here. I can talk about a lot of things, but realizing that God and life, whatever it is that you believe in, has a way of filling in that space with other things, of maybe arguably better things.
Yeah.
I think is something that I just really have to hold on to, you know, because certain decisions in life, like moving, like being flexible and finding a new job, requires you to let go of certain things from the past, quite literally.
Yeah.
In my situation, but also in yours, maybe it's a mental situation that you need to work through before you can enter into maybe a new relationship, you know?
Yeah. It feels very similarly like, I really love the imagery of a room, right? Where it's like, imagine if your relationship was like an item in your room, and your room's like your life, right? It's like you have your essentials, right? Like your bed, like you can't really live in a room without a bed.
You got your sleeping bag.
or your, it's like,
I get your point.
But like, remember when you got that ginormous bean bag?
Yes, totally impractical. Sold that like 3 days later. Made like $1 off of it.
Yeah, but think about it, right? Like, if you were to like think about like as if like the bean bag is like a relationship.
Oh.
Right? Like if you were to put that in your room.
Oh God, that's good.
You're like,
wow, you're cooking there.
You don't have like any space for anything else, right? Like let's say the bed is your spiritual life, the desk is your job, and you put that bean bag in there, like you can't even move around because it's consuming everything else, right? And so like I feel like that's something that in terms of taking on stuff and giving away, like assess your room. Like what capacity do you have to take anything on? But if you don't have the capacity to take anything on, what do you have to give away? You know?
Wow.
What do you have to give away to make room? There's a song, there's a worship song that I've been obsessed with recently called Make Room. I'm sure you've heard it.
Is that the one that goes like, I will make room for you?
I will make room for you. Yeah, and there's the part in the bridge where he's like, I will go and move it over, like where they're basically talking about different things, where you're like moving it over to make space for God. And so it's like, I think that when it comes to going back to like what I was talking about, like what really matters is like make space for what really matters, right? And I think sometimes if you can envision your life as a room, like you can begin to see more clearly what's taking up more space over others, and if it deserves that space in your room, in your life.
Yeah, I think the underlying thing here, I think, is also like sometimes in order to do more in your life, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to add more.
Yeah.
Sometimes the best thing you could do is take away.
Oh yeah.
And reduce and eliminate.
We talk about like more is less.
Less is more.
And less is more.
Yeah.
You know? And it's interesting how I feel like that's something I've actually done really recently too, probably in the past couple of months, is minimizing, like in terms of how much stuff I have. And I feel like it's kind of exactly like what you said, the value of what I've experienced in that, like not being too attached to anything, right? Not being anxious attachment with some stuff, but also not having nothing, like being avoidant, like I don't need anything, I just need a bed, you know? It's like I've been able to enjoy what really matters. Like I have a couple of books, but even then I've been like kind of storing those away, and the only books I have out are like the one I'm reading and the Bible. You know, and it's like those are the only books that I want to have out. Yeah. Because those are the only books I'm going to grab. You know, versus if I have like a whole bookshelf, it's like, well, I don't really need all of this out. Yeah. I don't even really need all these books, right? But yeah, I think that's such a beautiful thing to look at. The last attachment style is called fearful avoidant. I don't know if you've heard of it before.
I have.
Yeah. So it's so going back to that image, right? Secure attachment is like I have a firm loose grip on like what I'm holding on to, my relationships, what I have in my life, my job, whatever, right? Anxious is like, I'm nothing without this job. I'm nothing without this item. I'm nothing without this relationship. Avoidant is I don't need anybody else. I'm gonna loose grip on everything. I don't want to be in depth with anything. Fearful avoidant is kind of like fists, where it's like you don't need anything, but you don't, like it's dangerous to be in relationship with stuff, right? So it's like so in terms like talking sort of within the framework of dating, it's like love equals pain. right? Depth is difficult, right? I cannot trust anybody except myself, right? And sort of it sort of causes this like emotional confusion, right? There was a friend that I had in high school who, just because of like their life experience, was this attachment style. Like they were really hurt in a relationship, and so as a result, they're like, I don't want to have a relationship with anybody. If I gain depth, that's dangerous. That's scary. That could put me back in the same position I was in before. And so as a result, it was really sad because she wanted to be in a relationship with people, but was so scared of sort of reliving the same experience that she never pursued depth with anybody. And nobody pursued depth with her because it was always met with like contending. It's like a self-sabotage, basically.
I think that's one of the scariest things, I think, in life. As we talked about fear too, I think something that in past episodes, I think something that we never really touched on is the fear of never going deep with someone, of never having the ability to experience depth of true, meaningful relationship in life. And I think that's why we get to these points of depression. I think that's why we get to these aspects of life that are really difficult, where we start avoiding people, where we start not being able to, associate, because we think that there's no hope in necessarily communicating with someone because we don't feel understood. But I think kind of from what you're saying is that obviously, like, seeing that relationship, it can be detrimental to someone, like down the long haul. But just the understanding that, like, I think it's difficult too, easier said than done. But like, how do we move from maybe recovering from that kind of experience into a more restorative relationship where we can experience depth with someone, where we can recover from those previous experiences of not feeling like we're just kind of very shallow?
No, that's really great. I guess the question I have in response to that, right, is like, in the pursuit of depth, especially following being hurt, right? Like, and I'm not going to speak on your history, but knowing your history and knowing sort of the way that it ended up, in terms of maybe feeling hurt, maybe feeling distrust, right, like from the other person, how I think that something that I want to give attention to is, there's no shame in any of these attachment styles. It's just a part of the way that you engage in a relationship as an outcome of your previous relationships, as a result, again, of like your family history. But there's no shame. Like, I don't want to attach shame to like your fearful attachment over anxious attachment, right?